Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Breaking news out of Peace River, Alberta right now. A jury took just 5 hours to find Grant Sneesby guilty of manslaughter, and the Edmonton Journal is reporting right now. The former trucker was charged with second-degree murder in the death of Gloria Gladue, a 44-year-old from Big Stone Cree Nation in northern Alberta. Sneesby admitted in court that he hid her body on a farm in Manitoba for more than a year, but insisted that he stabbed her in self-defense. Watch aptnnews.ca for more on that manslaughter verdict and reaction. Still in Alberta, where an Edmonton jury yesterday found an Alberta man and his father guilty of killing 2 Métis hunters back in 2020. APTN's John Murray met with the 2 deceased men's family and has this.
Gina Levasseur is Jacob Sampson's sister. She says even though the trial is over, the situation has been challenging for the whole family.
There is a lot of feelings here. There's a lot of emotion in our family running deep. It's bittersweet.
A jury heard that Jacob Sampson and Morris Cardinal were moose hunting on March 27, 2020. They were driving to another family member's home when they stopped briefly on the approach to the driveway at Roger Bilodeau's farm. Roger Bilodeau got in his truck and pursued Sampson's truck. He called his son Anthony and said, "Bring a gun." Cardinal and Sampson would be found dead on the road the next morning. After deliberating all day Tuesday, the jury came back with a verdict at the end of the day. Anthony Bilodeau is convicted of 1 count of second-degree murder in the death of Morris Cardinal and convicted of manslaughter in the death of Jacob Sampson. Bilodeau's father, Roger Bilodeau, was convicted of 2 counts of manslaughter for his role in the deaths of Cardinal and Sampson. Jacob and Morris' family say though the guilty verdicts bring some justice, they are still dealing with their pain.
It hasn't really quite hit 100% yet, fully. We're still reeling from the fact that Jacob and Morris have been taken from us. Unfortunately, it ends in the court soon, and sentencing will be in the fall, but it doesn't end for us because we go home and our family has been taken. It's no longer the same. Our children are without their elders, they're without their knowledge keepers, and there is a giant empty space in our hearts where these men were.
The Crown prosecutor in his closing statement said that Bilodeau escalated the situation by bringing a gun to a fistfight.
Jacob had no weapon. Jacob had no gun in his hands. And it is heartbreaking because his life, it seems, doesn't mean anything. He is just a statistic now.
The chase along the rural road reached over 150 kilometers per hour.
He chased and followed 2 men down a public road. He cut them off and he tried to run Jacob over, and then turns around and claims self-defense. They just wanted to have a conversation while bringing a gun. What message does that tell our people? It tells our people that it's open season and that if you are non-Indigenous, it's okay to shoot, shovel, shut up.
Sentencing is expected in the fall. John Murray, APTN National News, Edmonton.
In less than 3 weeks, 3 Indigenous women have been murdered in Winnipeg. 31-year-old mother of 4, Tessa Perry, is the latest victim. She was remembered at a vigil last night. Hundreds of people turned out to honor Perry and support her family and friends. She was remembered for having an infectious smile and being a caring and loving person. Hilda Anderson-Pierce is a family member who says the huge turnout is an indication of how much Perry was loved. This is the 3rd vigil of an Indigenous woman who has been murdered in Winnipeg in less than 3 weeks. Arrests have been made in 2 of the 3 homicides, and it comes just days before the 3rd anniversary of the MMIWG National Inquiry's final report being handed over to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
You know, I think to have, such a significant loss in the Indigenous community, losing 3 Indigenous women, within a 10-day span is very devastating to community, and it also creates a lot of fear within community. Being an Indigenous woman or girl or Two-Spirited and gender diverse people, you're afraid, because there seems to be very little action related to the 231 calls for justice from the National Inquiry final report.
The currently suspended Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs is facing another sexual assault allegation. A Winnipeg police spokesperson confirmed that they have received a third-party report of an incident that allegedly occurred in Winnipeg back in 2009 when Arlen Dumas was the chief of Puckatawag and Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. Dumas was suspended in March of this year after a female colleague alleged that he sexually assaulted her. Dumas has not commented on any of the allegations and has not been charged criminally. A non-confidence vote that was scheduled for early May has been put off indefinitely as an internal investigation continues. You can find much more on this story on our website, aptnnews.ca. To Saskatchewan now, where two sisters are continuing to fight to clear their name. It's been almost 30 years since Odelia and Narissa Quaisance were convicted of second-degree murder for a crime someone else admitted to. APTN's Leanne Sanders has the latest.
I love every one of you guys today.
Freedom for me would be like being at home with my children.
For Odelia Quaisance, it was a long overdue homecoming, one that she hopes could be a permanent part of her future. She traveled to Keys-Coos First Nation in southeast Saskatchewan in mid-May while on parole. By her side was lawyer James Lockyer. He says it was an important journey.
You need to get a feel for the people you're looking after, you're trying to help, right? You need to, it's a very human thing, this kind of case when you're saying someone's wrongly convicted. It's not a name you're dealing with, it's a person.
Odelia and her sister Narissa were convicted of second-degree murder in the 1993 killing of Joseph Anthony Dolph. Congress of Aboriginal Peoples Vice Chief Kim Bodan was also along on this trip. He says the case was a miscarriage of justice.
They're just two Indigenous women that, people don't really care about. The system's, doesn't care. And that's the reason why. I mean, I can imagine if it was, two white women who were, in prison for 30 years for a crime they didn't commit, they would have been out a long time ago. Period.
Lockyer has applied for Justice Minister David Lametti's office to conduct a ministerial review. But he says the Saskatchewan Justice Department has not provided key documents needed to complete that review.
And the Saskatchewan Justice knows that. Of course they know that. And I wish they'd get on with it. I haven't pushed them hard till now, but I think it's time to push them. Because it's just too damn slow.
We can't never give up.
Both sisters have long maintained their innocence, and their cousin, Jason Cashane, confessed to the crime.
I stabbed him and beat him up.
Their defense started with legal aid in southeast Saskatchewan. Deanna Harris is now the director of the eastern region of legal aid. She says they're supporting Lockyer's plea because the commission has a chance to right a historic wrong.
This is part of reconciliation. Not only do we need to do better going forward, we need to look back and correct the mistakes that have been made that can still be corrected because so much can't be corrected. Canada has lost so many First Nations people to government policies, to injustice, to abuse, to murder, that this is an actual real opportunity to go back and fix a mistake.
Tomorrow, the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples will hold a press conference along with MP Leah Gazan, Senator Kim Pate, and Lockyer. They're appealing to Justice Minister David Lametti to review the cases and possibly overturn their convictions. It is their last hope. We'll have that story tomorrow. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
We need to take a quick break, but still ahead, residential school survivors meet with bishops. We'll tell you what was said after the break. Welcome back. Members of the National Indian Residential School Survivors Circle met with Catholic archbishops today in Winnipeg. On the table, the Pope's visit to Canada and the wording that should be included in his apology. Daryl Stranger has more.
We're going to get the work done.
and that the Catholic Church is going to be there supporting us.
Former Assembly of First Nations Regional Chief Ken Young believes the meeting this morning in Winnipeg will lead to positive outcomes when the Pope visits this summer. Young, along with former APTN National Chief Phil Fontaine and other survivors, met archbishops to discuss the Pope's visit and apology.
He's coming to Canada. He's coming to treaty land. And he has to say, I am sorry for what happened to your people and your children on behalf of the Catholic Church. How he says it is the prevailing, outstanding issue.
The group has survivors from across Canada to help deal with various topics regarding residential schools and the Pope.
We brought all representatives from each of the regions across Canada to form our residential school survivors circle group here to deal with issues such as the apology that's in front of us with the Pope's visit to North America or to Alberta, and some of the logistics we talked about, and also the working relationship that we have ongoing with the bishops.
One of the main priorities the group is looking at is getting survivors to one of the 3 locations the Pope is visiting.
The big priority right now is how do we get our survivors to Lac St. Anne's or Edmonton, where the Pope is coming to. We feel that from Manitoba west, everybody will be going to Lac St. Anne's, because there's 2 events that we're aware of in Edmonton.
Edmonton Archbishop Richard Smith believes the Pope is committed to doing the right thing, but his health might not cooperate. The visits are scheduled from July 24th to the 29th in Edmonton, Quebec City, and the Iqaluit.
Probably the clearest indication of his desire to make this work is the fact that he's coming at all. I'm delighted that he's coming, obviously. As a bishop, I'm very happy to see the Pope come here. But as I was sharing with the group earlier, I'm also astonished because of his health, his stamina, his limited mobility. And I wouldn't be surprised, I do not know this, just so you know, but I wouldn't be surprised if people were advising him not to travel at all.
Survivors hope more meetings will take place at the level they were at today, but it is unclear if that will happen. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Daryl. A report on sexual misconduct in the military was tabled by Defense Minister Anita Anand earlier this week. Former Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour was on hand to unveil her recommendations to media. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
It was a damning report with over 40 recommendations.
The handling of sexual offenses by military court in the past 20 years has done very little to improve efficiency, discipline, and morale. If anything, it has served to erode it. Therefore, I see no basis for the Canadian Armed Forces to retain any jurisdiction over sexual offenses, and that jurisdiction should be vested exclusively with civilian authorities.
The external review sheds light on the causes for the continued presence of harassment and sexual misconduct within the Canadian military, despite efforts to eradicate it. Defense Minister Anita Anand says one major change to be looked at is to send sexual assault cases to civilian courts. She said the other recommendations are a path forward and will be acted on.
Recommendations 36 through 40 address the clear need to improve the diversity of senior leaders in the organization, a goal that is near and dear to my heart. I absolutely agree that we must take steps to set and meet clear goals for diversity in our military to ensure that this crucial institution represents the demographic composition of our great country.
Pikwakanagan Chief Wendy Jocko comes from a long line of warriors in her family. She spent 23 years in the military. She was also part of the 2019 military sexual misconduct class action lawsuit.
I did endure many unpleasant moments in the military, but because I came from such an unpleasant background, I had a fighting spirit and I never gave up, So, and I can just imagine, what some poor women and men, it's not exclusive to women.
Jocko says societal change needs to happen.
I think it's a part of our society. It needs to start right from the family, right through the schools, right to every organization within Canada, because this is nothing new. As the report has said, this is nothing new, and many organizations, just not the Canadian military, have this problem. The RCMP have this problem. You've got private Catholic schools have this problem. There needs to be a change in the attitude of society. Women are being disrespected from a very early age.
Minister Anand said she will appoint an independent official to oversee the implementation of the recommendations. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Some candidates in election campaigns hand out stress balls or maybe golf tees or pens bearing the names of themselves and their party affiliations, but an Indigenous candidate looking to be re-elected in an Ontario riding that has a majority Indigenous population, well, he is handing out bingo dabbers.
And the best part of this plan is, no one can stop me.
Sol Mamakwa is the NDP candidate in Kiiwetinoong. That's the furthest northwest riding in Ontario. 68% of the population there is Indigenous. Suzette Foster is an Ojibwe woman running for the Greens in that riding, while Dwight Monk is running for the Conservatives, and Manuela Michelizzi, is running for the Liberals. We asked what sort of campaign materials they were each handing out. Only Ms. Michelizzi replied, and she said in an email that she heard about these bingo dabbers and that her good friend and competitor is handing out, and she will, quote, take a lesson and prepare something properly for the next campaign. It's nice to see rival politicians being good sports in Kiiwetinoong. Ontarians go to the polls tomorrow. We need to take one more break, but when we come back, a Cascadena designer hits New York, the fashion scene there. Oh my gosh, stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. This photo was taken by grade 10 student Sadie Whitford. She loves photography and saw these young grizzlies near Jasper, Alberta. Email your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. To the east coast, we've got cloud and 6 for St. John, sunshine, and 18 for Halifax. 15 sunny for Kuujjuaq, Maine, some rain and 5 degrees. Saguenay, 21 in sunshine, Chibougamau, 20 and sunny skies. 20 with a mix of sun and cloud in Ottawa. Sault Ste. Marie, sunshine, 18 degrees expected. 20 and sunny for Kapuskasing, 9 and showers for Big Trout Lake. 8 for Norway House and the Paw. Churchill, you might get some flurries, 1 degree expected there. 10 and showers for Winnipeg, 12 with a mix of sun and cloud for Brandon. 21 and sunny for Swift Current, 21 in Regina, but you're going to have some cloud cover. 17 in Buffalo Narrows, sunny skies there. 13 in sunshine for Stony Rapids. Sunshine and 24 for Grand Prairie. Peace River, you get 24 too, but with some cloud. 21 in sunshine for Edmonton and Red Deer and Lethbridge. 24 in rain for Kamloops. 24 and cloud for Penticton. 25 and showers expected for Fort Nelson. 22 in sunshine for Dease Lake. Old Crow, 17 and sunny. Whitehorse, 24 and sunny. Same with you in Watson Lake. 27 and showers for Fort Simpson, Fort Leard, and Trout Lake. Sax Harbor, 3 with a chance of flurries. 10 and cloud for Palatec. Baker Lake, mix of sun and cloud and 3 degrees. New Yacht, 2 and flurries. Sunshine and 4 for Pangatung and Clyde River. -2 and sunny for Arctic Bay. From overcoming addiction to creating some truly stunning runway fashions, a Cascadena designer from the Yukon is making a name for herself in the fashion world, and soon her work will be hitting the catwalk at one of the world's biggest fashion events. Here's Sarah Connors with that story.
For Natasha Peter, culture is art. The Cascadena designer from Ross River, Yukon, is known for mixing fashion with tradition, values she incorporates with every stitch.
There was a part of me inside that was pulling towards my traditional skills because growing up, my parents had taught me to live off the land and everything. And I guess that part of me wanted to come out. And I use a lot of the granny heel or the granny materials.
Based in Whitehorse, Peter's designs are hard to miss, like these granny hanky-inspired heels and this shawl adorned with bees.
Because you know, all the bees and stuff are disappearing and everything, so I kind of need...
And now, one of the world's biggest fashion events is taking notice. Peter's designs will hit the runway at New York Fashion Week in September. Her work was selected for Rise New York Fashion Week, a show featuring emerging and independent fashion designers. For Peter, it's a dream come true.
And here I am going to New York, one of my goals that I've been wanting to achieve for the longest time.
But just a few years ago, that dream seemed out of reach. For 15 years, Peter struggled with addiction.
I didn't really have a youth because I drank most of that part of my life away.
5 years ago, she picked up a sewing needle and has been sober ever since.
It was healing me, and I didn't know. And there I was, like 2 years of being sober, and I liked that feeling, so I kept going, and I started achieving a lot of things.
Peter's business, Cascadena Designs, has customers from across Canada and the U.S. Last month, one of her dresses was worn at the Junos. Just recently, she made her fashion show debut at the Alexander Reserve in Edmonton. Her goal for New York Fashion Week? Make Cascadena Designs known to the masses.
And after my fashion show in New York, I imagine that everyone else is going to know who I am.
From addictions to the world's fashion stage, Peter hopes her journey will inspire the next generation of designers.
And I hope my story will help somebody to follow their dreams too, you know?
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
It's amazing to see more and more Indigenous designers hitting major fashion shows. Of course, Sheila Tucker and Jesse Pruden recently showed their designs at Paris Fashion Week, and now we have this one to look forward to in New York. Well done. We are all out of time for your news. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.